Live now.
Hello and welcome to the Node.js Foundation Core Technical Committee meeting for February 22nd, 2017. And as we always do, or almost always do, we're going to start with a stand-up in alphabetical order by GitHub handle name. So let's start with Anna.
Hi, everyone. I mostly did normal issue and PR review. I did one bigger thing. That's the PR for changelogs for individual items in the docs. And I'd like everyone to take a look when they have the time and see whether anything's missing in their personal field of experience. And yeah, next one is Chalker, Nikita.
I think Bradley's actually next.
Oh, right. Sorry, didn't see it there. Sorry.
Sure. So I started work on ES modules implementation. Been talking with V8 people about it, and we have another meeting on Friday about it. But it's going pretty well. It's a little different since so much of it is written from scratch. So that's it for me. So next, Chalker.
Just
I'm sorry, I think Ben is next. Is he not here? I thought Ben was here.
I'm here. Nothing exceptional to report, just pull requests, bug reviews, the usual.
Okay, Chalker, take it away.
okay, just the usual pull request reviews and tissue comments. And next is Colin. Or Ivan.
Yeah, not much for me. Been busy at work. Next is Francisco.
Not much from me either, only some outreach and mentoring. Next is Jeremiah.
Arguing about promises on Twitter. I've been attempting to update my promise rejection crash on GCPR, but failing miserably at it because of some changed V8 internals, mostly something relating to how they changed, was it native weak map, I think. Doesn't work the way I used to use it, so I need to use like a C++ primitive for that, and that just hasn't gone very well, so not really much there. Yeah, I guess not too much else. Next is Fedor, if he's here. For James.
James is not here.
Also don't see. So Josh.
Yep. Was actually on vacation most of the past week, but I have been trying to pay attention to diagnostics, PRs, and issues. I got a couple in, I think. Next is Michael Dawson.
Right, so a bit of time on CI testing and then switching over the CI to use the mate coverage target. Scheduled and basically attended the PTO deep dive benchmarking meeting, did some investigation and wrote a proposal for how we should approach our NPM module publishing. Ongoing work with the ABI stable module API team. We're starting to get close to the VM Summit, which is scheduled for March 3rd. I think that's a week this Friday. Investigation of some 390 SIGIM issues. Landed quality with speed blog that has been in the pipe for a while. And finally, just general issue review, commenting, and landing. I think next is Brian White.
I don't think he's here. I think he pre-filled the.
Okay.
So we'll read that one real quick. He's working on updating existing PRs, mostly HTTP related. Continue working on improving performance in core in various places, and the one everybody has, reviewing PRs and commenting on issues. Next is Miles.
Did the release of v4.8 yesterday in 6.10.0, and I mentored Italo through the v7.6.0 release, which was his first release, which was really exciting. Nice to see new releasers on board. Discuss modules with Brad yesterday and discuss modules with Ali yesterday. I thought about modules, just modules. I got a release guide together for Canary in the Gold Mine. I'm not sure where we're at from the technical steering committee as far as improving the story of NPM modules that are owned by the foundation, but getting things in the repo so that as soon as we're ready to hand over credentials, people are ready to go. And I just wanted to do a plug. My outreachy mentee wrote this awesome guide on streams, which was very well received last week. And next up is Ali, who
I think we have Ali.
is also not here. I'll read through Ali's notes, which is nothing. And next up is Rod.
So I got the internet back up for the ARM cluster last week. Reconnected all of that and fixed up some problems there. Still got some outstanding problems on some Raspberry Pis, so I've got 3 of them disconnected. There's still a problem with a one of the ARM v8 machines. So if you're getting Jenkins type failures on an ARM v8 build, I'd like to hear about it. Just they've been coming up occasionally, and there's this one machine that's causing problems. I still don't know what the problem is. So trying to address that. I've been dealing with historical reported problems on branch diff and changelog maker, merging some things there and making some new pull requests. Sorry for everyone for being behind on those. And just generally getting back into the fray on GitHub. Next is Michael, who
Michael's here, but he's unable to speak. He can only use the sidebar chat, so I'll read out what he typed in here, which was landed V8 5.6 update on master, experimenting with V8 Extras API, and the review, land, PRs, comments on issues, etc. Yeah, I'm excited about that V8 thing. Anyway, Sector Prion is next.
And nothing much this week. Been busy with work. Next is Trevor. Trevor's not there. Trevor is it.
Yeah. So my notes. All right. So I'm prepping async hooks. I'm going to be placing it in a new PR because the old PR is so old. I'm going to be tagging the CTC so that everybody can come start picking it apart. Also, I've been writing a new PR for FS so that read and write will accept array buffers along with unit 8 arrays. All of the reasoning for that will be explained in the PR. Next is Rich.
Doing stuff with tests. I've been doing stuff with the assert module. I've been doing stuff with docs. I've been doing stuff with Node.to-do. I've been doing stuff with outreachy. And like everybody else, I've been commenting on issues and reviewing PRs, which probably we don't really need to say in the stand-up, but you know, it feels good to mention it. It's work. So other than that, let's get on with this meeting unless I skipped anybody. Did we miss anybody?
I think Brian just joined.
Okay, yes, Brian did just join. Let's see here. Well, we did read out what Brian wrote. So I think I'm gonna just charge ahead. Okay, so the first item, oh wait, no, we go to previous meeting first. So we didn't have a meeting last week because we had a sparse agenda and light attendance, and that happens sometimes. But 2 weeks ago, I think the things we talked about were updating or maybe this was last week, was updating the copyright, which James reported in the issue tracker that he doesn't have an update on that yet, but might next week. And ES modules, module loader, which we now have a tracking issue for the async loader for module interop. So I think we can, I don't know that we have anything to talk about the resolution from previous meeting. Someone interrupt me if I'm wrong. Otherwise, we're going to move to the first item, which on the current agenda, which Josh put on the agenda. It's backporting to 7.x, deprecating node -- debug at runtime. Take it away, Josh.
Yeah, so this has landed in master, and then it'll be an 8x. And the question is it okay, or should we land it in the next 7x release? It is a December major changed. Basically, when you type node-debug, it will print a warning. This has been deprecated. Use inspect instead. So as a summer major change, it really shouldn't go until 8, but we've discussed including it in a 7 release to give, because the time frame is pretty short anyway, and to give people as much extra time as possible to prepare if they need. So one other factor that I want to bring up is that what exactly will happen in 8 is a little bit dependent on whether we go with V8 5.7 or 5.8 in the initial release of Node 8. 5.8 is an issue somewhere. Basically, the old interface for debugging and stuff is being taken out of. I think it's already been taken out of V8 5.8. So it wouldn't work at all. In other words, no --debug will not work at all if we use V8 5.8. 5.7 is still there, so it would still work. And I bring that up because if we go with 5.7 and therefore Node 8 continues to support the old debugger interface, then maybe we don't land the deprecation till 8.0. So yeah, so just kind of two intertwined questions. First of all, do we land it in 7x? And does whether we go with V8 5.7 or 5.8 in the initial release of Node 8 affect that decision?
Hey, Josh, one question. So when sorry, I'm having trouble doing 8 things at once right now. The runtime deprecation will tell people to use -- inspect instead. Is that right? If I'm going through here correctly.
Yeah, it says something like debug is deprecated. Please use inspect.
So there's no at this time there's no CLI alternative for them to use. That's what Node - inspect is, and we haven't figured out exactly how that's gonna be packaged. Is that right?
Well,
Actually,
we
no.
do.
Yeah, Anna, go ahead. Those Anna.
Yeah, we do ship Node inspect in the 7.6.0 release. So yeah, that's there.
So should we does it make sense to mention that, I guess? And but whether or not it does make sense to mention that, I'm all for the runtime deprecation on this happening sooner than we normally do for all the reasons Josh outlined, and also because this is not like a deprecation that's going to end up in people's log files. This is a deprecation that's going to end up when they go to use an interactive CLI tool, and that's a different, that's a different doesn't require, it's not as delicate. I don't know if anybody has a different opinion. Okay, I'm done talking.
I think there might be something for me to clarify here. So there's no -- debug, which actually just activates the interface. It's not the actual CLI tool. And then there's no debug, no space, which actually runs, I think it's the _debugger.js as the main on the main event loop, and then spins off the script to be debugged in a separate process. So that the Node debug, no dashes, so Node space debug is Anna actually helped land the PR from Jan Krems. So that's the roadmap for that, I guess, is kind of separate.
I got it. Yeah, I'm confused. Sorry about that.
So which one are we trying to decide whether we want the runtime deprecation for? Or are we talking about both? Are we talking about starting a service with the -- debug flag or running the node debug command?
We're talking about starting a service in this issue, at least.
Aren't both things going to be just gone in version 8 though? In Node 8, won't both of those options not be there?
Yeah, they'll
Depends
both
on
disappear
which
at the same time.
Yeah, it depends on which version of V8 engine ships in Node version 8.0.0, as Michael is saying in the sidebar chat.
Oh.
Hello, sorry for being late. I just joined, but I'm not caught up in the discussion.
Sweet, good to have you here.
I think the sooner we can let people know, the better. Like, if we
Yeah.
know it's going away, then I think that we should let them know that.
So I just wanted to chime in to let people know or remind people that some precedence has been set for something like this before. We did agree, although no one ever took it up to follow through because I guess we didn't probably care enough. That we would do essentially the same thing for SMLic when the buffer changes happened, and I believe one other thing too around that time. So we've agreed to do this sort of thing before.
Can you clarify what you mean by do this sort of thing?
Do a deprecation in a minor version.
Okay, so there would be precedent for doing this kind of deprecation.
Not precedents that ever actually made it to a release, but that we agreed upon anyway. As far as I know, and that is specifically for like stuff that is more out of our control than our own APIs, essentially.
And then Josh, and I guess anybody else who has been working directly or indirectly on this, which would be Michael Dawson, maybe Anna, maybe some other people, I'm not sure. Do you have a recommendation?
One thing I'm not sure about, like Ali opened a PR a couple of days back, working on making the debug comment and I think the debug flags or something aliases for the inspect versions. I don't know. Does that have any effect here, Ali?
I missed the earlier part of the discussion, so I don't know exactly what point we are debating. But from my point of view, I think for version 8 it would be good for us to switch the debug command line flags to inspector. So the flags continue working in 8. They just use a supported version of the debugger as opposed to a one that's going to go away. So it's a somewhat major change because behaviors are subtly different because Node Inspect works slightly differently from Node Debug, but at least we'll have a more supportable thing, and it enables a few other things to happen that are currently blocked. That would be terrible not to get into it.
Right.
So,
the original. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say maybe what we can conclude here is that we should land the -- debug deprecation in the next 7x, and the node space debug, aliasing it to node inspect, we'll continue the work on that, and basically we can approve now that go ahead and well, maybe we shouldn't approve landing that till 8. Guess I was gonna say we can approve landing that as soon as it's ready too, but I'm almost not sure if that's the same now, as I was saying it.
If we're going to alias the flags, is there any reason to deprecate them?
Is there a reason to alias the -- debug flag rather than the node space debug command? I mean, I guess the debug command still makes sense.
They go hand in hand. I mean, so the debugger is matched with the --debug sort of agent. So if one is an alias, I think the other should be an alias as well. But as for the deprecation, so in Node 9, we're only going to have inspect. So it does make sense to add a deprecation in Node 7, saying that debug is going to go away. For 8, we'll keep debug functional. It just will be plumbed differently. But I do think the deprecation makes sense.
Right. Okay. I was just going to ask if the suggestion was to do that, to alias for a major or 2 and then get rid of them. Although if behavior is already different, I wonder if aliasing them is even worthwhile.
In a similar major, we can change behavior.
Yeah, but I mean, we're just going to get rid of it later anyway. Why not just get rid of it now, since we're going to change something anyway?
We don't even have tests for the, or too many tests for the behavior differences that, or there's not much testing we're doing with the old debugger. It makes no sense for us to cause friction by removing it right away. But at the same time, I mean, we can keep it functional for anybody that's dependent on it while giving them a deprecation warning for one more somewhere. So it just feels nicer to do it this way.
So I want to focus this conversation because
Okay.
Because aliasing is a separate question. Like we and we very well may have to have that.
It's not though. It's not really a separate question because it all plays hand in hand in the end.
So we're gonna. Well, I mean, unless you're suggesting that if we alias, we don't need to deprecate, but unless that, I guess that's the only way they're connected.
Is there any reason not to get rid of the flag version then? To get rid of --debug straight away? Because its functionality definitely will not be similar. Or at least the API.
Yeah, I think we were going on the. I was going on the assumption. I think we've been going on the assumption that debug and inspect are two different things, and so we wouldn't alias --debug to --inspect. That's how it landed in master. I mean, we could change that. I think. Yeah, node space debug. We've been saying we would alias, but maybe we should revisit that.
I think personally I'm okay with deprecating both now in 7, getting rid of --debug in 8, aliasing and deprecating node debug in 8, and then getting rid of node space debug in 9.
You have thought this through. So is there anybody who is not in favor of deprecating --debug in 7? Just taking that one little component for the moment.
I thought we already discussed that and agreed that we'd just do that.
That sounds like you do not disagree. Cool. All right. So I mean, it sounds like there's at least agreement on that. And
Cool. I put down land in 7x, and we'll continue the discussion on node space debug in those issues.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna propose we move on unless somebody feels we need to talk about more stuff about that at this time. Okay, cool. Next issue is an issue I put on there, but it's really Bradley's issue, and I'm not sure we need to talk about it this week, but I guess they'll let us know. And that is the tracking issue for the async loader for module interop. Is there anything the CTC needs to either know or make a decision on regarding this at this time, Bradley, or are things just kind of moving along and you'll let us know when stuff needs more attention?
There isn't really anything interesting about implementing ESM going on. We've got a prototype which has some nasty hacks because the V8 API needs to be fixed up a little. But it works. I'm starting to write a whole slew of unit tests, so we actually check the behavior against require. The behavior differs somewhat radically since it's URL based, but that was known. I did expose something while implementing it, which is there's an interesting behavior in require where it can actually fall through and have files added to other people's packages when resolving, which I noticed. And that's a slightly different issue from ESM, but we've got different resolution rules going on, and I'm not sure that that behavior should be preserved for ESM. So the basic concept is if I have a React node module and it doesn't have a file named foo, I can actually put a React node module in the node modules folder above React and add a file foo, and require will find the parent's foo. This kind of violates some blackboxing expectations I had about modules. So I don't know if people have opinions here. Fixing the behavior purely for ESM seems doable, but I really don't know if we should fix it for require. So, yeah.
Bradley, I think Anna, someone asked this earlier. I think it was Anna. Are you working on this implementation in the open, or where is this?
It's not in the open until I get some tests in place. It's pretty broken right now in terms of like using globals and things to get it just to function. So once V8 patches up a few bugs, we can put it somewhere more public. I could put it in a private repo somewhere, but it's pretty clutched together.
Bradley, the thing you're describing, is that like issue 4595? I'll paste a link in the chat.
No, not exactly. It's similar in nature, but it's not the same issue. I actually made a test case, which I can paste in chat as well. Here.
I mean, that kind of like sounds like a bug to me. I don't know if we would want to get rid of it and require because like I don't know, there's a reason why we have the module system as quote unquote locked, and there's, for all we know, someone depends on it somewhere in existence and will complain about it. It'll probably be bigger than we suspect. But like I don't really see why we would preserve that behavior.
So my main concern is there are efforts to create signed modules by various parties, and this violates the ability to have signed stuff because you could inject unsigned things into a signed namespace.
Oh. I think we should probably worry about that for require at the time that happens.
For ESM, I was saying we just stop it before it starts and see how much breaks.
Correct. I would agree with that. I think there's some other resolution things that end up changing probably with ES modules anyways.
Yes, and that's part of what I'm writing tests for right now. So right. URL encoded characters that were previously allowed now can have effects if you don't URL encode them. So like if you had a question mark in your file name or something like that. So, but those are kind of just by the nature of using URL-based paths.
That sounds unpleasant.
I don't know too many people using hash signs and question marks, which are the two actual ones.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Anything else on modules, or should we move along?
That's it. Probably next week I'll have something up in a private place for CTC people to look at, but I don't want it public until we're not like using global hacks to get it to work.
Cool. Anybody have any questions for Bradley? Although if you do, they can probably go in GitHub or private email, but if you want to ask a public question, anyone? All right. Next item on the agenda was put there by James. It is a runtime deprecation for fs.sync write stream. And I'm not sure what the CTC agenda label is all about on this one. Does anyone know, or should we?
Simply forgot to remove the label.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Then we won't talk about this one. And then the TSC is something James updated us on in the issue tracker. So we're all set there. And he also put in the issue tracker a couple other proposed deprecations, a couple other links to pull requests where he proposes deprecations. So definitely take a look at those. But I think it would probably be premature to talk about them here. If anyone disagrees, start the conversation now. I'll shut up for 10 seconds. All right, great. So if there's no other items that anyone added to the agenda at the last minute, I'm not seeing anything. I think it's Q&A on public channels time, and to stall while we collect questions, I'll read off the list of upcoming meetings. There is a calendar, Node.js Foundation calendar, maintained by William Kapke. There's a link in the minutes. So if you go to the CTC repository and look at the minutes for this meeting or any of the recent meetings, you'll see a link there for a calendar that will give you complete meeting listings, or complete-ish meeting listings, I should say. This CTC, this meeting will happen again in 1 week. It will be 15 hours earlier. It will be at 5 a.m. UTC. If you're on the west coast of the United States or Canada, that will be 9 p.m. The TSC meeting, next one is tomorrow, same time as this meeting started, 2000 UTC. The diagnostics meeting is also tomorrow, 1 hour after the TSC meeting, so at 2100 UTC. And I believe all of these meetings are streamed on the YouTube channel. Is that right, everybody?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay. And then VM Summit. Someone says there's a VM Summit on March 3rd in Redmond. Who put that down there and wants to just give a 1 or 2 sentence explanation?
I put it on there.
Go ahead.
Oh, Michael, you want to do it? You could.
No, go ahead.
I'm less involved, I guess, but I.
Okay, well, no, I'm happy to do it. So, basically, there's an in-person VM Summit. We had one at the last Node Interactive. The two main things that we're tracking at this point is the first one is the work on the stable ABI and module API. So we're going to be doing an update on where we are on that. At the last one, it was discussed that we would likely put it into master in time for V8, for Node version 8. And so it's a checkpoint to review that, agree that we're still on that track and get it in. The other major thing that's being tracked is the work that Ali and team are working on in terms of FFI. And so I think we'll get an update on that as well.
Hey, Miles, do you think you could send me the link to the post that your outreachy mentee made so I can link it to someone in YouTube chat? Or if you can link it into the YouTube chat.
Absolutely. Just give me a second, I'll dig it out.
Okay, with that, I think, do we have any questions, Jeremiah, or anybody else?
There's one comment. So William Kapke says, for what it's worth, I have worked with a few companies that depend on requires parent traversing for server config files. Which just sounds unpleasant to me, but I suppose there's some people that might be using something like that, as I alluded to earlier.
If I could get a hold of him and ask the exact nature of what they're doing, that would be great. So,
yeah. Okay, so Bradley, go talk to William, or William, go talk to Bradley. Is that it as far as the Q&A so far?
I think it's worth, just to fill in some void here, worth pointing out to listeners that we have a formal nomination for Francisco, who's joining us as an observer here, to join the CTC. That's issue number 11488. So she'll be joining us as an observer for another couple of weeks before we finalize the vote on that. So welcome, Francisco.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any other questions. Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to close out the public portion of this meeting. So thanks a lot, everybody, and talk to you again in, I guess it's now 16 hours less than 1 week. Bye.
Bye.
Call recording off.
1 second. Okay.